Welcome to Hungarian Insights, your go-to channel for exploring Hungary's rich history, vibrant culture, and language learning resources. In this episode, we take you on a fast-paced journey through the evolution of Hungarian theatre, from realism to radical 20th century experiments. Stay with us for fascinating insights into art, society, and the stage.
Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive with us. Today we'll be going from realism through the 20th century.
Ooh, exciting stuff.
It really is.
Yeah.
We're looking at how theater evolved along with some really massive cultural shifts. Think of it as, well, our express tour of those huge aha moments
Yeah.
that shaped the theater that we know today.
Okay.
So let's kick things off with realism.
Sure.
It just feels like such a huge shift from Romanticism, which was, all about these larger-than-life heroes
Right.
and, idealized stories and all that.
Yeah.
What really sparked that shift toward a more grounded and kind of relatable style?
Well, I think realism came about as a direct response to what they perceived as the artificiality of Romanticism. It was a way that playwrights could tackle those pressing social issues of the time,
Right.
and showing their audiences the world as it was, warts and all.
It's like they wanted to hold a mirror up to society and say,
Yeah.
look, this is us.
Yes.
This is what we're dealing with.
And think about Ibsen's A Doll's House.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, that sparked outrage because it showed a woman leaving her husband to find herself.
Wow.
And that was, radical for the time.
Yeah.
And it's a really good example of how realism forced audiences to actually confront uncomfortable truths about themselves.
Yeah, that's a fantastic example.
Yeah.
And then from realism, we see this emergence of naturalism. And it's often described as almost like this extreme or scientific form of realism.
Okay.
Can you unpack that a little bit for us? How did naturalism actually differ in practice?
Well, naturalism took realism's focus on the everyday, and they applied a scientific lens to it.
Right.
So playwrights like Emile Zola, who was a key figure, he believed that things like heredity and environment were the main drivers of human behavior.
Interesting.
And their plays explored, the darker aspects of human nature, showing how characters were trapped by their circumstances.
So instead of just depicting reality, it's almost like naturalistic plays were seeking to analyze and explain it, almost as an experiment on the stage.
Exactly. Think of the stage as a laboratory.
Oh, okay.
And the characters are subjects under observation.
Wow.
Their sets were really detailed, almost clinical, to kind of recreate the environment as realistically as possible.
Oh, wow.
And the dialogue was really naturalistic as well, mimicking everyday speech.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And it really reflects that growing interest in science and psychology during the period.
Totally.
So let's jump ahead now to the 20th century.
Sure.
I mean, the world was just in constant flux. Wars, revolutions, technological advancements.
Yeah.
How did theater respond to this sense of just upheaval?
I mean, the 20th century was just this time of radical experimentation in theater.
Okay.
Playwrights weren't content with just mirroring reality anymore. They wanted to deconstruct it, to challenge it, provoke audiences in new ways.
Right.
And it led to a whole wave of, innovative movements like Expressionism, Surrealism, and absurdism.
And what were some of those key innovations or techniques that emerged during this period?
Well, you see a lot more symbolism and abstract imagery, like in those expressionist plays, distorting reality to show the characters' inner turmoil.
Right.
And then you have surrealism, which was drawing on dreams and the subconscious, creating this sense of the bizarre and illogical on stage.
Wow.
And absurdism, with playwrights like Beckett exploring the meaninglessness of existence, but through these dark comedies and really minimalist works.
So it was just this explosion of different styles and approaches, and each was trying to capture that fragmentation and that uncertainty of modern life in their own way.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that they weren't isolated.
Right.
They often overlapped and influenced each other, creating this vibrant and dynamic theatrical landscape.
Sounds like the 20th century was just this period of immense creativity and boundary pushing
For sure.
in theater. And of course, one of the most influential figures from this era was Bertolt Brecht, right?
Absolutely. I mean, he revolutionized theater with his idea of epic theater,
Right.
which was all about getting the audience to think critically about the social and political issues that were on stage.
And he did this through those alienation techniques.
Exactly.
I've always been a little curious about what that means in practice.
Okay, well, imagine you're watching a play.
Yeah.
And suddenly the actors break character. And they turn and address you, the audience.
Wow.
Or the set is completely bare with stark lighting and placards that display like key messages. These techniques were designed to remind you that you're watching a performance,
Right.
not reality.
Yeah.
And forcing you to actually engage with the play, like intellectually.
So instead of getting like swept away in the story,
You're constantly being reminded to question what you're seeing and its implications.
exactly, he wanted them to leave, wanting to change the world,
Wow.
not just with a feeling.
That's incredible.
And his influence, on theater and art in general is immeasurable.
It's amazing how he turned theater into such a powerful tool for social commentary and even political activism.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder how all these movements that we're talking about, from realism onward, how did they impact audiences at the time?
Right.
Were they shocked, excited, confused?
I mean, it's safe to say that these movements provoked strong reactions.
Yeah.
I mean, realism, with its focus on social problems, it challenged the status quo.
Right.
I mean, it sparked debates about things like women's rights and class inequality.
And then you have those experimental movements of the 20th century. That must have really, really pushed boundaries.
Imagine being an audience member who's used to these traditional, well-made plays. Okay, yeah.
And then suddenly you're confronted with this surrealist production.
Right.
With, its dreamlike imagery and nonsensical dialogue.
It must have been such a shock to the system.
Totally.
So we've seen how theater evolved from, realism through the 20th century, reflecting and engaging with all of those changes that were happening in the world.
Yeah.
But what about the playwrights themselves?
Right.
How did these movements shape their roles and their responsibilities?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it leads us to actually explore the evolution of the playwright as a social commentator,
Okay.
a philosopher, even a revolutionary voice.
Wow.
During this really pivotal time.
Right. It's like the playwright's role really expanded from simply entertaining to actively challenging and provoking audiences,
Right.
making them think critically about the world around them.
And that shift in perspective, understanding that the playwright is this social force, is one of the most significant legacies of these movements that we'll be looking at in our deep dive.
I'm already hooked.
Yeah.
What's next on our journey?
Okay, so to really understand how the playwright's role evolved, we need to trace the roots of these movements back even further.
Okay.
Let's take a trip back in time, even before Romanticism,
Okay.
to uncover the foundations of theater
Okay.
and its connection to the broader cultural landscape.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
We're digging deeper into the soil where those theatrical revolutions grew.
Exactly.
So where do we begin?
Let's start in medieval Europe.
Okay.
Where theater was really deeply intertwined with religion.
Okay.
And it was a tool for religious instruction. Think of those elaborate biblical plays performed in churches and public squares, often using allegory and symbolism to teach these moral lessons.
So it's a far cry from the realism and the social commentary that we were just discussing. But I imagine those early forms of theater were really crucial in shaping the development of drama.
Absolutely. I mean, they laid the groundwork for storytelling on stage.
Okay.
For exploring those themes of good and evil and for engaging with audiences on this like visceral level. And then as we move into the Renaissance, we see a shift away from purely religious themes towards a renewed interest in classical learning and human experience.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The Renaissance was all about, celebrating human potential.
Totally.
And rediscovering that knowledge from ancient Greece and Rome.
Yeah.
So how did this impact theater?
Think about the rise of humanist playwrights, like Shakespeare in England, Christopher Marlowe.
Right.
I mean, they drew inspiration from those classical sources, but they also explored really complex human emotions and relationships, creating characters that were timeless.
And deeply relatable.
And then with the printing press during this time, I mean, I imagine these plays just reached a much wider audience.
The printing press was a game changer.
Yeah.
Allowed plays to be, shared far and wide, contributing to this flourishing of theater throughout Europe.
Really setting the stage for the Baroque period, which was, this time known for its extravagance and dramatic flair.
The Baroque period was a continuation of those Renaissance trends.
Okay.
But with an added emphasis on spectacle and emotion.
Got it.
Think elaborate sets, grand costumes, and plays that explored themes of power, ambition, and the conflict between reason and passion.
It sounds like theater was becoming, more and more sophisticated, both in its storytelling and its technical elements.
Totally. And this evolution continued into the 18th century.
Okay.
Which was marked by the Enlightenment and the rise of reason.
And theater at this time often reflected these intellectual currents.
Okay.
Exploring themes of social justice, individual liberty, the power of human intellect.
Fascinating to see how each of these eras really laid the groundwork for the movements that we discussed earlier. It's like a chain reaction. Each period building upon the innovations and ideas of the one before it.
And then we enter the 19th century.
Okay.
And we encounter Romanticism.
Right.
Which, celebrated emotion, imagination, and individual expression.
And it's here with Romanticism that we start to see the seeds of discontent that would eventually lead to realism's rebellion.
Yeah. Romanticism, while powerful, it often idealized the past.
Right.
And it presented this romanticized view of the world. And this paved the way for realism, which wanted to show life how it was with all of its complexities and imperfections.
It's like a pendulum swinging back in the other direction. After all of that romanticized idealism, there's this need for something more grounded, more relatable.
And realism's emphasis on those social issues and everyday life really resonated with audiences who were, dealing with rapid social and economic changes during the 19th century.
So it really sounds like the stage was becoming this platform for exploring the real challenges that were facing society. Yeah, and this paved the way for naturalism. And it's even more unflinching examination of human behavior and the forces that shape our lives.
Exactly.
And as we move into the 20th century, that desire to push boundaries and challenge those conventions just intensifies, leading to that explosion of experimental theater that we talked about earlier.
It's a fascinating journey, isn't it?
It really is.
From, those early religious plays to the radical experimentation of the 20th century. I mean, theater has always been this reflection of its time, a mirror to society's anxieties, aspirations, and that evolving understanding of the world.
It makes you wonder what, future historians will say about the theater of our own time. What will those defining movements and innovations be that shape the way that we tell stories on stage in the years to come?
That's a really thought-provoking question. And it leads us into the next chapter of our deep dive, where we'll explore how those groundbreaking movements of the late 19th and 20th centuries influenced the playwright's role, and how their voices continue to resonate in contemporary theater.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
It's really amazing how theater's evolution just mirrors society's own journey. From those early religious plays to the complex narratives that we see in the 20th century. It just feels like playwrights became more than just storytellers. They became, commentators, even activists in a way.
You hit the nail on the head. Think about the impact of realism. Playwrights like Ibsen weren't just writing, entertaining plays. They were sparking conversations about women's rights and societal expectations. their work challenged the status quo.
Right.
And it forced audiences to confront these uncomfortable truths.
So the playwright's role really expanded beyond, mere entertainment to include social commentary.
Right.
And even, as you said, activism.
Exactly. And that shift continued with those experimental movements of the 20th century.
Right.
Brecht actively sought to provoke his audiences.
To make them question the political and social systems,
Okay.
that shaped their world.
Right.
His theater was a call to action, a tool for social change.
And beyond Brecht, were there other playwrights who really embodied
For sure.
this idea of the playwright as a social commentator?
Absolutely. I mean, think about Arthur Miller in the United States.
Yeah.
His play, The Crucible,
Right.
while it was set during the Salem witch trials,
Right.
it was actually this really powerful allegory for McCarthyism and the dangers of political persecution.
So even though these plays were set, in different historical periods, they resonated with audiences because they tackled these universal themes of power, injustice, and the struggle for individual freedom.
Exactly. And this is what makes theater so powerful. It allows us to explore these timeless issues in a way that's engaging and thought-provoking. It's like holding up a mirror to society, but also offering this glimpse into the human condition, regardless of the time period.
That's a great way to put it.
And as we move further into the 20th century, we see even more diverse voices emerging in theater.
Totally.
Feminist playwrights, LGBTQ plus playwrights, playwrights from, marginalized communities.
Right.
So the stage became this platform, not just for reflecting society, but also for challenging it, for pushing boundaries.
Totally.
And giving voice to those who had been silenced.
Exactly. And that legacy continues to this day.
Wow.
I mean, contemporary theater.
Okay.
It's still grappling with these questions of representation, identity, and social justice. Playwrights are pushing the boundaries of form and content, experimenting with new technologies and storytelling techniques.
It's inspiring to see how, that spirit of innovation and social commentary that we've been talking about today is alive and well in the theater of our time.
It really is.
Yeah.
And as you continue your exploration of theater history, keep in mind that this journey's, far from over. There are countless playwrights and movements and stories just waiting to be discovered.
And who knows what incredible theatrical experiences await us in the future. Perhaps we'll see a whole new movement emerge, one that reflects, those unique challenges and possibilities of our ever-changing world.
I mean, that's the beauty of theater, isn't it? It's this constantly evolving art form, a mirror to our collective hopes and anxieties. Right. And a really powerful tool for understanding the human experience.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to thank you for taking us on this journey through theater history.
My pleasure.
It's been a real eye-opener.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely inspired to explore more on my own.
It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you.
Yeah.
And remember,
okay,
the stage is never truly dark. There's always a story waiting to be told, a voice waiting to be heard.
Yeah.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep those curtains rising.
It's really amazing how theater's evolution, mirrors society's own journey.
Yeah.
From those early religious plays to those complex narratives that we see in the 20th century. It just feels like playwrights became more than just storytellers. They became, commentators, even activists in a way.
You hit the nail on the head. Okay.
Think about the impact of realism.
Okay.
Playwrights like Ibsen.
Yeah.
They weren't just, writing entertaining plays.
Yeah.
They were sparking these conversations about women's rights and societal expectations. I mean, their work challenged the status quo and forced audiences to confront these uncomfortable truths.
So the playwright's role really expanded beyond, mere entertainment to include social commentary and even, as you said, activism.
Exactly. And that shift continued with those experimental movements of the 20th century.
Right.
I mean, Brecht, he actively sought to provoke his audiences, to make them really question those political and social systems, that shaped their world.
Okay.
His theater was this call to action.
Wow.
A tool for social change.
And beyond Brecht,
Yeah.
were there other playwrights who really embodied?
Oh, absolutely. This idea.
Think about Arthur Miller.
Okay, yeah.
In the United States.
Right.
His play The Crucible.
Okay.
While it was set during the Salem witch trials, it was actually this really powerful allegory for McCarthyism and the dangers of political persecution.
So even though these plays were set in different historical periods, they resonated with audiences.
Right.
Because they tackle these universal themes of power, injustice, and the struggle for individual freedom.
That's what makes theater so powerful.
Yeah.
It allows us to explore these timeless issues in a way that is engaging and thought-provoking.
It's like holding up a mirror to society. But also offering this glimpse into, the human condition, regardless of the time period.
That's a great way to put it.
And as we move further into the 20th century, we see even more diverse voices, emerging in theater.
Yes.
Feminist playwrights, LGBTQ plus playwrights, playwrights from marginalized communities.
Right.
So the stage became this platform, not just for reflecting society, but also for challenging it, for pushing boundaries and giving voice to those who had been silenced.
Exactly. And that legacy, continues today.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Contemporary theater is still grappling with those questions of representation, identity, and social justice.
Yeah.
Playwrights are still pushing the boundaries of form and content, experimenting with new technologies and storytelling techniques.
It's inspiring to see how that spirit of innovation and social commentary that we've been talking about today is alive and well in the theater of our time.
It really is. And as you continue, exploring theater history, just remember, this journey is far from over.
Right.
There are countless playwrights and movements and stories out there just waiting to be discovered.
And who knows what incredible theatrical experiences await us in the future. Perhaps we'll see a whole new movement, one that reflects, those unique challenges and possibilities of our ever-changing world.
That's the beauty of theater, isn't it?
Yeah.
This constantly evolving art form, a mirror to our hosts and our anxieties.
Yeah.
And a really powerful tool for understanding the human experience.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want to thank you for taking us on this journey.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
Through theater history. It's been a real eye-opener. And I'm definitely inspired to explore more on my own.
That's great.
Yeah. So I really appreciate your time.
Oh, of course.
And your insights.
It was my pleasure.
It's been great having you.
Thanks for having me.
Our podcast discussions are based on our ebook, Hungary's Hall of Fame in a Nutshell. History, literature, art, music, science, sport. Scan the QR code or check the link in the description to download your copy of Hungary's Hall of Fame in a Nutshell. As a special bonus, you'll also receive the Illustrated Companion, featuring over 100 detailed illustrations to visually enrich your understanding of the book's content. Thank you for watching.